Shakur moved so well. He won every round, and he was just a step ahead with quickness and just with, just the plan himself. Great plan coming in, and he did well. Congratulations to him.
He won all the rounds? Is that what you're saying? He won all 12 rounds?
Well, maybe he lost one, but he won the majority of rounds.
At what time did you realize that this was just going to be Shakur taking over the whole fight?
After the fourth round.
Mm-hmm. After the fourth round?
Yeah.
Okay? Eddie, I want him. He's smooth. He's smooth. I got him. Okay?
The boxing world has reacted to the Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez fight. They promised fireworks and boy, they delivered. What played out tonight was a fight fans had circled for months. A chess match of speed, timing, and will that swung back and forth like a pendulum. By the time the final bell rang, the arena was exhausted. The fighters were spent, and the boxing world had already moved from play-by-play to immediate passionate reaction. From the opening seconds, it was obvious this was not going to be a one-note affair. There was probing, measuring, and the kind of cautious respect between two elite-level pros that makes the first few rounds feel like a palpably tense negotiation. The early minutes were littered with sharp jabs and counter-jabs, the sort of clean, clinical boxing that only looks simple when it's executed well. There were stretches where the rhythm felt like a classical conversation, sentences exchanged, ideas tested, and then sudden explosive punctuation marks when one fighter landed a compact combination that made the crowd gasp. Both camps clearly came into this bout with a plan and the ability to pivot when the original blueprint didn't work. One man used lateral movement, timing, and crisp counters to score with surgical precision. The other came forward in waves, trying to shorten the distance, work the body, and turn those small openings into much larger ones. Those contrasting approaches produced a fascinating ebb and flow. There were rounds where the countering stylist looked untouchable, slipping, turning defense into offense and popping out with bursts of scoring punches. And there were rounds where the pressure fighter made it difficult to hold a single line on the scorecard simply because the aggression forced awkward exchanges and clinches that robbed the other man of clear sight lines to land. It was a beautiful tension between calculated avoidance and purposeful collision, and the audience felt every change in momentum as if it were a physical shove. Some sequences felt destined to live forever as gifts and slow-motion breakdowns. There was a middle round swing where a quick flurry from the aggressor landed flush and had the other man sliding back on his heels for the first time. The momentum visibly shifted for a couple of rounds afterward, not just on the judges' cards, but in the fighter's body language. Then in response, a late round burst from the countering stylist. A series of crisp on-net twos that backed the forward man against the ropes and forced him to reset reminded viewers that timing and accuracy can be just as devastating as raw force. Those moments were not merely about physical impact. They were psychological punctuation marks. You could see a fighter's posture change. The corners leaning in, trainers shouting corrections and encouragement. That's the human theater of boxing. A single 2 or 3 second exchange can change how both camps approach the next 3 rounds. This made the Shakur versus Teofimo fight more interesting. But what made this fight especially compelling was how both athletes adjusted from round to round. When the pressure fighter found some success in closing the distance, the other man began to vary his rhythm, doubling the jab, stepping off to the left, and choosing precise counter angles instead of trading recklessly. Conversely, when the counterpuncher enjoyed a stretch of cleaner shots, the forward man began to loop in uppercuts and body shots more frequently. The kind of inside work designed to blunt a fighter's mobility and change the shape of exchanges. Those micro-adjustments are what separate elite fighters from merely very good ones. It's not always the flashiest things that win fights, but the margins, a half-inch shift of the lead foot, a fraction of a second delay on a punch. A choice to tap the body instead of the head in a particular sequence. The coaches who earned their pay tonight did so by reading the fight and sending concise, actionable instructions that were executed under extreme fatigue. The crowd's mood was its own narrative thread. It swelled when the action favored the aggressor and sharpened into appreciative, almost reverential quiet when the counterpuncher threaded a clean sequence through a shifting defense. Late in the fight, the noise became a living pressure on the ring itself. Roars after big exchanges, those in the moment chants that push a fighter to keep throwing when every muscle is screaming to stop. Ringside commentators alternated between breathless description and technical deconstruction. And social media followed in near real time with reaction clips, hot takes, and those clips of veteran trainers pausing frames to point out that crucial foot placement or subtle head tilt. It's increasingly rare for a fight to achieve both mainstream excitement and technical fascination, but tonight it managed both. Television viewers were entertained and aficionados were given plenty to dissect. There were turning points scattered across different rounds, none of which could be reduced to a single definitive moment, but each of which nudged the needle. A middle round flurry that landed flush had the potential to swing judges who prize aggression. A later sequence of counters that visibly stunned the aggressor reminded scorekeepers that clean, visible punches count for plenty. The last rounds were especially telling. Both Shakur and Teofimo showed conditioning and torque. Not just the ability to keep punching, but to sustain proper technique while breathing heavy and nursing sore spots. That's where high-level camps win fights, by ensuring their fighter can execute under duress. Watching them trade in the final minutes felt like watching two people who had pre-committed to leaving everything in the ring and both honored that commitment in full. Post-fight images and the short clips of the immediate moments afterward were a study in contrast. Embraces and handshakes, stiff smiles, trainers with eyes that looked like they'd aged decades. During one night, there was a mutual acknowledgement that both men had answered the call. They were sold. A fight that was competitive, dramatic, and technically rich. Media interviews that followed were equal parts praise and analysis, because no observer wanted to reduce what they'd seen to a lazy headline.
Yeah.
Fans and pundits immediately began to argue about swing rounds, about the value of pressure versus the aesthetic of precision, and about what should come next for the principles of the fight. Some called for instant rematches. Others suggested high-profile matchups with different stylistic threats. That debate is exactly what promoters hoped for after a close, engrossing main event, because it keeps the conversation and the money rolling. From a technical perspective, the fight reinforced a few timeless truths. Timing and distance management are fight-winning skills. They allow a smaller, more mobile boxer to neutralize power and to score with low-risk, high-reward shots. Conversely, pressure and bodywork are time-tested strategies for negating movement and turning a chess match into a series of messy, scrappy exchanges where power and tenacity matter more. Both approaches found success tonight, and that duality made it hard to point to a single narrative beyond the obvious. Two elite fighters executed their strengths and exposed each other's flaws in equal measure. The judges had a complicated job, not because the fight was sloppy, but because it was layered. Round swung, momentum shifted, and both men won their moments. That's the kind of ambiguity that fuels legend building. Because when boxing fans can reasonably defend multiple perspectives about who won, it invites repeated viewings and long debates. The boxing community's immediate reactions were gratifyingly varied and mostly respectful. Fellow fighters praised mental composure and mid-fight adjustments. Trainers focused on the tactical pivots and conditioning of both camps. Casual fans were simply thrilled to have witnessed a high-drama spectacle. Social timelines filled with slow-motion replays of the same 2 or 3 sequences, as if people were trying to divine some hidden truth in the frame-frame mechanics of a particular exchange.
Teofimo that beat Lomachenko, what if that Teofimo shows up?
Like I said, Lomachenko is a not easy fight. Teofimo was able to be in the ring with different type of fighters and figure it out.
Predictably, there were hot takes and bold declarations in the hours after the bout. But the dominant feeling was one of appreciation. Appreciation for two athletes who risked everything in front of a global audience, and for a fight that reinforced why boxing at its best is still a uniquely compelling sport. In practical terms, this fight will change matchmaking calculus and the conversation in the division. A high-quality performance, whether cast as a narrow victory or a near miss, vaults an athlete's marketability and bargaining power. A gritty showing from the other man turns him into an attractive must-see opponent for a variety of future opponents. Negotiations, sanctioning bodies, and TV networks will now have fresh leverage points. Rematch clauses will be dusted off. Crossover or unification fights will be floated, and promoters will try to convert tonight's drama into the next big payday. For fans who crave narrative and stakes, tonight supplied both. Career momentum for one man and a storyline-rich bounce-back path for the other. Whatever the record books ultimately show, the optics tonight will be a major currency in the sport's short-term business. Both Shakur and Teofimo gave fans and critics something rarer than a landslide knockout or a dull tactical shutout. They gave a fight that asked questions, forced adaptation, and demanded courage. Weeks from now, People will still talk about those late-round exchanges and the choices made under pressure. If a single fight can expand a conversation about what elite boxing looks like in the modern era, this one did. For anyone who loves the sport, that's precisely the outcome you want.